Texas firm petitions court for religious exemption to fire LGBT people. Braidwood Management Inc., a management service firm in Texas, is urging a federal court to grant it religious privilege to discriminate against LGBTQ people. The owner of the Christian businesses, Steve Hotze, says he does not employ people who are known to take part in, quote, sexually immoral behavior or gender non-conforming conduct of any sort. He's attempting to overturn the Equal Employment Opportunities Commission's, or the EEOC, interpretation of Title VII, which was accepted in 2020 by the Supreme Court in the landmark decision of Bostock versus Clayton and Company. He claims that it's possible to discriminate against LGBTQ people without bringing sex into account, and therefore he could do it without breaching Title VII. He listed rules that he believes would be neutral when it comes to sex, and that would therefore allow him to avoid hiring LGBTQ people. So this was Rivka.
So I find it really interesting because some of the civil rights protections that are in a lot of these Title VI, Title VII, Title IX, all of these civil rights protections in the United States, a lot of the people were against hiring Black people because they were the tribes of Ham or some Bible ridiculousness. Women, you know, once they got pregnant, teachers were usually fired because that meant that, you know, they were involved in some kind of relationship, whether it was within the bounds of marriage or not. You know, religious people discriminated against religious people, wouldn't hire them, fired them, wouldn't let them, you know, pray, wouldn't let them wear their, so, and in the United States, those protections are what we call equal protection under the law. So them claiming that somehow they can separate their bigotry from discrimination by just giving it another name. So they were saying, well, it wouldn't be sex discrimination if you fired a woman, not fire a woman for marrying a man, but you can fire a man for marrying another man. I'm not sure where they're getting this. Somehow it's not about sex, meaning male or female, but it's about that person's liberty to act as they choose outside of their employer's eye. So their job doesn't have anything to do with whom they're married to or what religion they are or their color of their skin or any of that stuff. So it's just, I just can't see it flying. I can't see it flying. And if it does, then that'll set a precedent that is really, really negative and could backfire on religious people as well. Because if you can fire someone for that part of their life, well, then you could fire someone for being a Christian. I don't hire Christians. I don't hire people who say, you know, have a blessed day or whatever it is. It just seems like it's a very, very slippery slope, and I don't see it actually holding up in court.
Yeah, so my understanding of, and like the law is not my area, I could be getting this wrong, but my understanding of the like current state of the argument is that sexual and gender minorities are protected under sex discrimination law and precedent, because it is actually basically it could be interpreted as discrimination on the basis of sex, because you're discriminating against that person because they're a man and they're doing that behavior. You wouldn't discriminate against them if it was a woman who was doing that behavior.
Exactly. And so he's
trying to say, I'm going to discriminate against both of them, and therefore it's not against this ruling if I do that. That's how I understand this. So But I want to go over some of these rules that he's created that he thinks he could discriminate against someone of both sexes and therefore find a loophole into the Supreme Court ruling. So, and I was shocked at how wide-reaching they are and the level of like authoritarian influence into its employees' lives is insane. Okay, just get a load of this. Get a load of this. So these rules include: 1, no employee, male or female, may enter a gay bar or gay bathhouse. No employee, male or female, may engage in the sexual practices associated with homosexuality. No employee, male or female, may engage in deviant sexual intercourse as a term as defined in Section 2502 of the Texas Penal Code, which we will get into. They may not use Grindr or any other dating apps used primarily by homosexuals. They may seek or obtain hormone therapy unless it is prescribed for a medical condition other than gender dysphoria. And they may undergo surgery to modify their genitals unless that surgery is needed for a medical condition other than gender dysphoria. So what right does he have to interfere in someone's life like this? It's insane.
Which is where I'm going with when I brought up what you do when you're not on the employer's private time is not his business, so to speak. That's a big overreach, and that's a privacy invasion, particularly like you can't go on Grindr. Your employer's telling you can't use an app. You can't enter a building. You can't, so how you can have sex and in what ways. So it seems to me it's a big overreach, and it's also a privacy thing. And typically the United States courts are really loath to control people's private, even because they have these rules often, but they're never enforced. Or when they are enforced about sexuality or types of sex you have, they're usually overturned. So, but the privacy issue itself, the sort of big brother aspect of it, I just don't see something like that, really being something a court would be happy siding with, because that's really, not only is it very authoritarian, but it's really reaching the fingers of this corporation into every possible aspect of this person's life, including, what type of sex they could have.
All right. I want to say 3 things. First of all, the audacity that it takes for this fucker to come out and say that, like, they're saying the quiet parts out loud. They're like, I want to be a homophobe, make it illegal. Like, they are actively asking for them to be allowed to discriminate against people. Like, they're not even hiding it. Like, most right-leaning people and conservatives, they're like, I'm just going to say family values, blah, 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 like, this and that. You need a mom and dad to children. Okay, fine. LGBT is fine, but you're brainwashing our children, blah, 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 blah. This guy is like, no, I want to discriminate against gay people. Who do you have a problem with that? Make it legal. Make it legal for me to discriminate. It's so, well, I mean, I'm grateful that this guy is not hiding it, at least, like the other conservatives. Like, he's like, I'm a bigot. Okay, I want this to be legal for me to be a bigot. Like, I want.
He's not saying he wants to make it legal. He's saying that he wants not to have to follow the rules that every other
right, can I finish
company
I know
in the America has.
Yes. We're being pedantic now with the vocabulary, but same point. But let me please finish my points, okay? So another thing I wanted to mention is, I'm hoping that this organization, like people in the chat, I'm not a legal expert. I don't think this is going to work. Some people in the live chat are saying it's not going to work, and I hope that's true. And if it doesn't, I hope he signaled to whoever needs to investigate these companies that we need to be investigated, right? Like, I hope the laws in Texas are like, no, you don't get to do this. You don't get an exemption. By the way, this company needs a whole bunch of agents up and down, like the whole institution, just making sure like what's going on here. Okay, so not only you're not going to get away with this, not only you have to follow the rules that everybody else is following, you are suspect number one now. Okay. Last thing I want to say, the third point I wanted to make is, if anybody here follows like conservative YouTubers in United States, right? Like if you follow Officer Tatum and if you follow Ben Shapiro, right? The people who cry about cancel culture every time somebody leftist shuts down somebody else, right? Please see if they're going to condemn this, if they're going to call this out as cancel culture, right? As some people who want to discriminate, because the standards that they have for left-leaning institutions, they don't apply that to right-leaning ones or people or institutions or politicians. Because if any left-leaning organization had this level of canceling of people, not just like their content, their jobs, we're talking about these people's way of making money, right? Like getting people fired because of this. This is like the height of cancel culture, right? Coming from the right. So if they don't highlight this, because I bet you if anyone, left-leaning, politician, organization, or person, did something that was remotely this cancelly from the left, they would be highlighting it. They would be jumping on that on their shows. So, and ask yourself, why are they not highlighting like this? Is this not cancel culture? Like, this is not you getting banned on Twitter. This is you losing your fucking job. This is by far a lot worse. So why are they like, do you trust these people? Like, ask yourself, do I trust these content creators if they're not highlighting shit like this? Anyways, Suze.
Very good points. He also, so he lays out all these arguments. And then at the end, he basically argues that at the very least, he should be allowed to discriminate against bisexual people. He's like, okay, I might not be able to get all of them, but at least I can get the bi.
What?
Yeah.
Come on, y'all. Give me
I've
the
been personally targeted. He says, quote, an employer who discriminates against all bisexual employees, regardless of whether they are male or female, cannot simply be engaged. It cannot possibly be engaged in sex discrimination under Bostock, which is the legal precedent. Reads the filing, because that is the same trait, meaning sexual attraction towards members of both sexes, and is treated exactly the same regardless of whether that trait appears in a woman or a man. So he's like, I can get some of you.
Wow. Why is he specifically upset about your people, Suze? Why is it the bis?
We're not very popular.
Oh. Rivka, you want to say something?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about the penal code in Texas that he is referring to, which, so reading from this, a lot of it has to do with, sexual relations between relatives, which we understand protects, the health and safety of the community. But then it also has that what they consider deviant sexual intercourse means any contact between the genitals of one person and the mouth or anus of another person with intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person. So this guy, and first of all, this law is not possibly, be enforced at this point. Although if they say it's current as of 2020, when I was looking at it, but he's not just wanting to insert the company into a homosexual or a bisexual person's life. He wants to insert his company morality into straight people's lives, into single or married people's lives. This guy wants to be in your bedroom. And in order to work for him, you have to agree to that. But I wanted to bring up about what the difference between this might be and then like morality clauses in contracts, because those do exist, but that is usually when you represent a specific company as a spokesperson. So those may be, you know, if you're a representative of the company at a function or, you know, at a meeting or whatever, then you have to conduct yourself a certain way. And those tend to be upheld. But this is different because this guy is saying, I can fire you because your private life, not as a representative of the company, is something that my religion says you can't do, versus someone saying you are representing our company at, you know, this function and you showed up drunk or you know, blah, blah. Those things tend to be more upheld. But this seems like the discrimination difference versus a morality clause in a contract is where it hinges on.
Okay, the part that you read, like putting penis next to what? Puts to anuses with the intention of sexual pleasure.
You can't have oral sex
Is-
either.
No,
Nope.
wait, but no. I just want to ask this question: what other intentions are there? Like what? Like can anybody think of a scenario where you're like putting someone's penis into someone else's anus and you're like, yeah, this is not for the sake of sexual pleasure? Like, are there, is there a world? Well, I mean, even then,
Well, if it's forced, then yes,
it
it's
would
not.
be one side pleasure, I guess.
Or not even. Usually it's about power and
Maybe it's like a study, medical purposes. Like, I don't know, like, yeah. There we go. Research. There you go. Exactly. That's the only other thing that I could think of. Okay. All right. That was weird. For science. Okay. All right. See, look, you two think about abuse. Me and the live chat were thinking about science. Where do you
Because
guys?
we're women.
Oh shit. Oh shit. You're right. Okay. Wow, pulling the woman card out. Okay, cool.
But
yes.
actually,
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, you're right. Oh wow.
so
That was a pretty good response. Yeah, Rivka.
So I'm just going to mention this in case anyone's interested, because I think it's very interesting. There's an article on the Penn State Law Review, which is morality as a legitimate government interest. And he discusses whether the government has a legitimate interest in defining morality, or controlling specific morals, or fighting against other morals. And it's very interesting because he talks about this whole, somewhat about what this is, not necessarily about discriminating based on someone's sexual orientation or something like that, but just the idea that the government legislates morality, and morals tend to be, in my opinion, more about, they tend to be very religious based in some way because they're always fixed, right? It's always bad to do A, no matter what the situation is. A is always a sin, whereas ethics are different because those are about relationship and choice, and they're contextual. The context matters when you're discussing ethics. So I find it interesting that he uses the word morality, because this sort of is what this guy is saying, that the government has an interest in allowing me to legislate morality on my employees, so to speak, and control their behavior. And so anyways, Penn State Law Review, if you're interested, I thought it was quite interesting.
hey guys, if you're a fan of Blasphemy and Sexy Callie, like me, then you need to be sure to subscribe to our newsletter, link in the description below. because if you subscribe, we will send you a free copy of our Blasphemous Art ebook. And let me tell you, it is the tastiest blasphemy that you can find anywhere available today. And we are so generous with our blasphemy that we continue to send you more blasphemy every week. So make sure to subscribe. Link in the description below.